And welcome. What are you drinking?
Coffee?
How? Old?
No, I brought coffee from home.
Oh, you said there's no coffee.
Nope, he's lying.
I was
It's
trying
old
to get
coffee.
more. I was trying to get more.
It's
Oh.
It was
old
gone.
coffee.
And welcome to another edition of the Nerdy Agent Podcast. I'm your host, Luke Pedersen, with my brothers and fellow nerds, Josh and AJ. We are headed to the Western Conference Finals. I say we because we're
No, we already
fans.
won. We already won a game, I think.
I don't think.
Nah, by the time this is recorded, we won't have our first game probably.
What?
Well, because the Nuggets are going to win tonight, and then it's Tuesday, I think, is the first.
Yep.
Sunday if the OKC
This is our second
wins.
take too, by the way, everybody.
Sunday if
So we're off to a roaring start
This
today.
is not our second take.
We're
This
going to
is our
win.
First take.
The Wolves are going to
I
win.
assumed that when I asked about the coffee, that was gonna stay.
Oh, sure. Okay.
I assumed we were keeping that in there. The Timberwolves are head of the Western Conference Finals. Everybody's happy. We're gonna win the whole thing this year. That's just kind of boring at this point.
This is the second time in a row they've won a series on a Wednesday night, so I've been able to wear my jersey in for Thursday recording.
Fantastic.
Both
Two in a
times.
row.
So
Two in a row. They might win so bad in game one that they just let us go to the finals too.
Just
Is
one
kind of
game.
what I'm wondering.
Done.
This week we are going to talk about how to identify flipped houses as well as what to look at so you can advise your clients on if it makes sense or not for that property, or understanding which flips are done incorrectly, quick, cheap, crappy materials in ways that will cause them problems after they move in. I think this one's really important, at least because in the Twin Cities, I mean, we don't know where our listeners are from. I don't think, do we? Is there data
from all
on
over,
that?
yeah.
If you're in another market, you might not have as many flips as the Twin Cities does. But in the first time home buyer 3 to 450, you see them quite often, and it's really important as an agent to help your buyers look past the shiny white cabinets and new stuff to make sure they actually understand what's done well and what's not. Plus, I do think that this is somewhere where you can add value really quickly, because we talk a lot about actually showing people issues in houses versus just trying to get them to buy something, essentially. And the second you walk into a flip, if you can start ripping it apart, it builds a lot of rapport. And if you can find the flips that are actually done really well. I sold one in Robbinsdale last year. That was the best flip I've ever seen in my life. Your clients can be ecstatic because they get something that's brand new. It's done really well. They're not going to have any issues down the line.
Can I give a quick tip on the front end of how to spot a flip
Let's
potentially even before we start?
Yep, let's
right?
start there, yep. So
when
you
you
schedule a showing.
Even before we schedule
before
a
you
show,
schedule
you see
a
a
show.
house that comes through the list of potential houses for a client. The flips are the ones that clients often will look at and be like, that house looks like a sweet deal, right? Because they have a look to them, and if you've been doing this long enough, you see them come through your feed, and you see the gray, and
What
you
is
see
alabaster?
the white, and you see the right, and you see certain things that just kind of make it look a little bit like, could this be a flip, right? Anytime I see that, I just look. I usually go to Zillow first and try to just see when the house was last sold, because you can see all of the past sale history in Zillow, or you could go to the Hennepin County or whatever county you're in.
Relist.
Yeah, whatever property records you got there. So I would say if you ever have a hunch based on photos that a house may fit that criteria based on what you know and based on just how these houses tend to look, do that before you get to the showing, because you don't want to be at the showing and be like, is it a flip? Because your client might be like, they might be thinking the same thing. If you see that's been sold in the last year, it's almost certainly fits
For sure a
that
flip.
category. And know that before you go in.
Well, and you also want to know that because you want to know what they bought it at, what the spread between the price they paid for it and they're listing it for, and how long it took. I've had some where it's like they bought this on January 6th and it's March 15th. And I'm like, they did the whole house. I'm like, this was done
In 45 days.
so fast. So either the person who flipped it is the owner, and that's just like was their full-time job, which then would be feasible, or they just threw up crap in this house. And you can start kind of understanding what their spread might be on it as well. So you look it up before you go there. Let's say you schedule a showing. Once you get to the house, what's the cadence look like?
I mean, you just start looking at kind of the way that they install it most of the time for me. So it's mostly like come from like you look at the things that a flipper probably isn't going to do because they're not that sexy would be things like siding. They're going to paint it almost always rather than replacing it. Roofing. You see a lot of old roofs on flips because they bought the house in disrepair. The roof's not leaking. They're not going to replace that roof. It's going to cost them $8,000, $10,000, $12,000, $15,000 to do that, and it's not going to add that amount of value for a buyer. The windows
HVAC.
and the mechanicals are the next biggest thing. So you'll see a lot of old furnaces, see a lot of old water heaters, and a lot of old windows that have been basically like painted shut. So like one thing I'll do is, like Josh said, if they've came through and grayed out all the floors and whited out all the trim and cabinets. They probably have also taken a sprayer to those windows, and oftentimes their painter doesn't come back through with a utility knife and actually cut the sash loose from the frame, and you can't even open any of the windows in the entire house. So it's something that you definitely want to look out for. To Luke's point, sometimes there are quote unquote professional flippers that do a bunch of the work themselves. Things to look out for there that are pretty just simple tips. Like one really easy one is if there's a new backsplash, you check how they installed the tile. Because oftentimes people that don't know how to install tile will start in the bottom left corner rather than starting in the center of the wall. And that'll be a really easy indicator of if they knew what they were doing or if they're kind of amateur hour. And if you see one thing wrong, you're going to start to see a lot of other stuff.
Same with the shower surrounds. If they did tile that, with the tile, I always look at, especially the starting in the middle. I usually just run my hand over it to see how bumpy it is. Because sometimes you run, it's like you're just like jagged going up the whole time. And I'm like, I usually tell people that if I can install it better, it was done very poorly. That's kind of my metric.
It's a good threshold.
It's a good threshold because I don't install tile very well. And then sometimes too on the tile, if you look at the edging, you're supposed to have like an edge piece that finishes it. And a lot of these guys will just go straight and then you can just see the side of the tile.
A Schluter. Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
A Schluter edge, yeah.
Schluter edge?
Exactly, yeah. A lot of them will just leave that off. And the key there is have something you can look at every time to give you some sort of indication on where things are going to go. So like if you walk in, first window you try and open is inoperable. The roof is 25 years old. They didn't replace the siding. You're probably walking in this house going, these guys maybe don't care.
Well, and I think too, like when you look, like you guys said, shower surround, like you look in the backsplash first and you see that and you go, I'm going to go look in the shower. And assuming they've done tile on the walls, now you're very curious on what's behind that tile. Because presumably if you didn't install it with the correct aesthetic, you probably didn't red guard the wall either. You probably maybe didn't even use backer board.
What's red guard?
Red guard is, so what you're supposed to do when you install that is you put cement board rather than sheetrock behind the wall. Because
it looks like sheetrock, it's just stronger.
It kind of looks like sheetrock. It's usually a little bit
in the sense that it comes in a sheet.
Yes. Yeah. It comes in 4x6 foot sheets rather than 4x8. And it's really heavy and the tile adheres to it much better. You have to use a specific kind of screw to install it. And what you're supposed to do is then cover that with red guard, which is like a waterproofing material, before you install your tile. So if someone's just slapped the tile over some old sheetrock, you may have a problem. I mean, the thing that I usually will mention is when I explain that to clients is when we've done on our rental properties these kinds of large scale remodels, we actually take all of the sheetrock that was existing off the wall in the bathroom. We re-insulate the wall and then we recover it up with it's got poly. It's like so much more moisture proof. Some people will just come through and either remove a surround and they're like, yeah, it looks good. They'll skim over it and then they'll just chuck some tile on top of it. And you may have, moisture in your walls or a bigger problem because there's no fan in the bathroom, like things like that to look out for.
And the big kicker on that too with tile, just so people do understand, and this is an important thing that we teach our agents all the time, grout is not waterproof. So the tile in and of itself is waterproof, but if water gets on that, I mean, it's on the wall, so it's harder for it to seep through it, but you're not there is moisture there, regardless of if you have it completely tiled.
So I think, and to take this up a level in terms of the thought process, what I tell my clients with flips is that I'm not opposed to you buying them, right? If you really love one and I feel like the quality of work is good, I'm not opposed to you buying one. So we're not going to sit here and tell you that they're a bad investment for you, but there is a difference between the intentions and the incentives surrounding flips versus the incentives of someone who's bought and renovated to live in that house. So someone that's bought and renovated to live in a house is going to continue to live there for a period of time and is excited about making that house their own. So they're going to spend extra money to do something the right way. Whereas someone who has flipped a house has a financial incentive to do this in a way that minimizes the expense line and maximizes their return upon sale.
It's exactly why I love when a client walks into a house that was maybe remodeled in the last 5 to 10 years, that someone's been in for 25 years. And I'm like, this house is going to be in such good condition if
Yep.
these people did the work like this, you know. And some people will cut corners. I mean, that's something to point out on their own house too.
Yep.
But you can usually tell if they've, you know, hired a real general contractor. I think one other tip you can look at, and this is one that I give our team often, it's a really easy one if like a house had an unfinished basement, is make sure you check the electrical panel. Here in Minnesota, there's not only typically a permit sticker on the panel if it's been redone. If the basement gets redone, you add circuits, there should be a little sticker on there showing the permit. You can also look up permit history on a lot of most cities across the metro. You just type in city name, e-permit lookup, and you can usually find what they've done. Certain cities have, you know, Minneapolis, it's a property lookup, but all the permit history is on there. If they didn't pull permits, that's when you're, you know, starting to ask some more questions, because you're probably not seeing arc fault breakers in that panel, which is not code. You're probably seeing, you know, potentially like flexible plumbing traps and different things that like a handyman might think is fine, but that your buyer may have to deal with after they move into the house. Because to Josh's point, this is all just money in, money out, versus someone who's potentially doing it for themselves.
Yeah, and as you think about the approach with your clients, right? What we talk about the whole time is our job is not to sell houses. Our job is to educate people and help them make informed decisions for themselves. So it's a good place to almost reiterate that belief in what our role is how you treat people when they're going through these houses. Because in some cases, like I've been in flips that people have bought that I looked at and was like, oh gosh, this is a disaster waiting to happen. Right? So my role as an advisor is to walk through that house and be like, this person did all the work themselves. All of the work is done poorly. They cut all sorts of corners. It looks super cute and it photographed really well. And some agent not paying enough attention or more interested in just making a sale fell for it. But my job is to make sure that you're walking into a good situation and that you're going to feel good about the decisions that you've made 1, 3, 5, 10 years from now. And so I think it's really important to highlight that, yes, we're talking about all the little things you can look for through a house in a case like this to make sure that you're kind of identifying that. But if you even take it up, like it's more about what our role is in general, right? Which is to help people make decisions that they feel good about. And you can really reinforce that with your clients and build trust by picking them apart in cases where you walk into a flip that's not in good shape, right? Like by picking it apart, you're going to make them realize that you're on their side.
100%. I think that's the key with any showing, even when it's not a flip, which we talk to our agents about a lot of the time. I'm just going to rattle off a few more. Quality of the cabinets, whether they're dovetail, soft close, butt joints, how tall the upper cabinets are, if they replace them, the P-trap underneath all of the plumbing, whether or not it's flexible.
Oh, what about but you forgot fridge panels. Gosh, when they don't do a fridge panel on a flip,
happened
it
in our
just
rentals
makes
a few
me
times.
insane.
That one is a little bit more leeway on a fridge panel.
Panels. We need to have fridge panels.
I go so far as to say that
I just built a fridge panel.
If I walk into a flip and the roof is super old and bad and the mechanicals are old and bad, it's basically a no-go for me from the start because that person cared far more about trying to make money than even addressing basic bare bones stuff in the house.
If they put pulls on the cabinets and they didn't use it, they didn't use a jig or they painted them.
And they don't line
They're
up.
off by a 16th of an inch. That'll get me because that means it was your first time putting on hardware, because the first time I put on hardware, I did it that way. And then I sat there and I thought, there's got to be a better way to do this. And there is.
There's
it's a jig. You just put it on there and you screw through and it takes 30 seconds. If you don't know, do you have anything else on flips?
No.
That's if you don't know what we were talking about, like if you don't understand what a flexible P-trap is, if you don't understand how to figure out the age of a roof, how to any of this stuff, we do a house hack every single Tuesday at our team meeting, which ends up usually causing our team meeting to go really long because we talk about something for 20 minutes because our agents have a bunch of questions and we love to add value and help them be better for their clients. So if you ever want to swing by a Tuesday team meeting, 10 a.m. at 9th Avenue in Hopkins, Minnesota.
It's hopping here.
Or send us an Instagram DM. Kyle will get back to you, let you know. We also do Wednesdays. We have stuff on Thursdays, a lot of stuff you can come in and learn more about.
World-class training.
We had an agent swing by on Tuesday to check out our team. And within an hour of Wednesday, within an hour of the meeting ending, sent an email about how unbelievable it was.
Yeah, it's great.
That email was, it was really cool, and it spoke a lot about what we're trying to build here, which I think is really awesome. So if you want to swing by.
I had a closing yesterday, and my clients came in, and because we do closings in our office now, so our title company closes here in one of our conference rooms, and they were in that room, and afterwards they're like, dude, the energy in here is awesome. Like the light is great. It's like, this is just such a fun, cool place. I can see why you like working here. And I was like, I mean, one, that's pretty cool to be able to have my clients come in and like see the energy and be like, I want to be a part of this. Because for a client retention standpoint, it's like they're going to want to hang out with us forever and come to all of our events and all of our pie days and picnics and stuff, but also just reinforce the like, yeah, something here is going right.
Good action. You want to hear
energy.
I'll close with Emily's idea for the closing room. It's so freaking awesome. We're gonna put up some like foam boards underneath those high windows, and then get a Polaroid camera.
Yep.
And pin the picture of the closing on the wall with the Polaroid.
And give them one.
We could give them one too.
You have to do two.
You
I
could do
love
two of
that.
them.
I love it.
Isn't that fun though? It's like a collage wall.
Oh, because they'll take the photo in front of the map, pointing to their house.
Yeah, or the idea was too, we might do like a little collage of like sold signs on that other wall where the door swings into.
That'd be sweet.
Take some pictures.
I think that would be a good
Polaroid
addition.
is great.
Polaroid
I
is a
love
cool
that.
idea.
I know.
I actually bought a Polaroid a few years ago because I was going to use it for the closing photo and give it to him, and then I wasn't good enough at taking the photos. It didn't go very well. Well, that's all we have this week on the Nerdy Agent Podcast. And as always, remember, be better.
Bye now.